So, what type of therapy do you provide, and what sort of situations are people in when they approach you?
I provide humanistic therapy, and what that means is that I'm insight oriented. I help people to understand their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. I found that when people have insight, that they actually feel more empowered of their situation and they're able to navigate life's choices and feel more confident and resilient. And the people who usually contact me are usually in a state where they feel anxious or depressed. Sometimes I have people who will mention, I'm really running late at work sometimes, and my boss is threatening to fire me, and I want to keep my job, and I'm not sure what's going on. And it could be something where they don't have something properly diagnosed. Sometimes people might think that that's ADHD, but it could also be depression. So part of my job is to not just hear why they're calling me, but also to assess what's going on with them. And sometimes people will say that I just feel stuck. I'm not quite sure. I've been unhappy. I feel very sad. And I have people who contact me who are going through a lot of grief if they have a death of a loved one, or they're having increased arguments with their partner. So there's communication issues. Sometimes I have people contact me when they're going through a separation or divorce and they need help co parenting. So when people are just feeling stuck and not sure how to move forward with the situation, it's usually when they contact me.
How do you differ from other therapists?
One thing that really does stand out is when I'm in a room with other therapists, a lot of therapists are introverts. I'm actually a high extrovert. So I really engage and ask a lot of questions, and I'm very curious about getting to know people. And I also have a sense of humor. So it's strange that people would think that therapy has to be so serious.
Hmm.
What's interesting is sometimes, we laugh during our session, and it could just be lighthearted, and it doesn't always have to be, the stringent, tell me how you feel. You'll find that I'm very directive, I'm collaborative, and because I've been doing this for some time now, I'm very quick to determine significant patterns and identify problems very quickly so we can come up with solutions.
So, for a lot of people who've never seen a therapist, can you tell people what they should expect from seeing a therapist, such as yourself?
What they should expect is to feel that they can make not just good choices, but feel confident in who they are. A lot of times what I hear from people is I'm losing sight of who I am. I don't I don't know who I am anymore. And I find that most people are more resilient than they realize. They're the experts in their lives. And when they go to therapy, part of the whole treatment is actually the relationship with the therapist. Lots of studies show, regardless of what type of treatment it is, it's about the connection with the therapist. So it's really important for the person to be able to feel comfortable to disclose any any information. There's no taboos. And that's what they should expect. If they don't feel comfortable, if they don't feel connected, if they don't feel heard or understood or safe, then they should trust that that's a red flag. Yes, one quality that they should look for is somebody who is truly attentive. I've heard stories about therapists who are late, therapists who don't show, therapists who don't engage. There, I I am very directive, and one of the things that a lot of people ask me is if I'm going down the wrong path, if I'm doing something wrong, will you be honest with me? They don't want somebody to just brush it over and let them continuously do something that's harmful or not working for them. And I'm pretty honest. And So you want a therapist who's going to be honest and comfortable even sharing that information. So you also want a therapist who is current on trends and even research. By law, we have to have continuing education. So you want somebody who is well read in material, who attends these workshops. For example, several years ago, when in 2016 there was a lot of politics that were coming into the family and to the nation, and it came into my office, and I I was never trained from like a diverse perspective about what to do with politics. As therapists, we were actually all thrown out of our wheelhouse. And what you want is you want to have a therapist that's aware of this and immediately goes to this place of, all right, we need to gather information. We need to work with other therapists and figure out how we're going to provide support for everybody through this. So that's what you should look for in a therapist.
How can a patient know that they're progressing and making positive steps moving forward?
There's three things that you want to think about: intensity, duration, and frequency of symptoms and of problems. So sometimes I'll have people who work with me, and usually within the first 3 weeks, people start to feel better if they see me once a week. So about 3 to 4 times they may see me. And they'll report, I'm feeling better, I'm feeling lighter. And because I've been doing this for so long, I actually can tell when they get to maybe the 6 month mark that there might be a what we call like a relapse, meaning their symptoms kind of reoccur or something happens again that is a trigger. And part of when we talk about when they're feeling better is in that moment that they're able to kind of step back and not go down that same rabbit hole that they might have, before they first started treatment. So it's not about this ultimate cure of never having, a lapse or a relapse. It's about being able to identify it very quickly, getting out of it so the duration isn't as bad and it doesn't become as intense. And another thing that people can tell if they're getting better is any type of change. For example, a lot of times around the holidays, I'll get a lot of people calling me saying, I'm going to be around a lot of family and it's going to just stress me out, especially, now that I'm no longer married or something like that. And part of how we know that somebody's getting better is when they go to the family dinner or family holiday, they have a different experience. It's better. So we can actually look at specific time, like places and time, to say, like, you actually did this different and this was better.
Yeah, I liked how you can sit there and say, well, patients can start to see progress in several weeks, but at the same time, you're also acknowledging that they may have a relapse 6 months down the road and you have a plan for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually, I share that with people. And if they've never been in therapy before, I think to me, it's a sense of empowering them and letting them know what to expect.
Do you have an approach to therapy that's maybe different from others, or like just in general, what's your approach?
My approach is to meet the person right where they are. I don't do a traditional intake with a bunch of questions about tell me your symptoms, tell me your family history. Like, to me that's actually quite boring. I yawn. and so instead, when people say, "Oh, I don't know where to begin," and I'm just, tell me where you are, what's going on. I'll meet you exactly where you are. And that's what separates me from other therapists and is what's different. And
Why do you think that approach is more effective?
because to me, I think this other history and things like it's relevant, it's going to come up in time. And I want to know and meet you like authentically what's going on. We need to stop the bleeding if there's bleeding. If you're bleeding and you're in pain, I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, tell me, about your grandmother. Tell me about your father and the relationship that you had with him, I I need to address the bleeding.